If it looks like I'm inside of a poorly lit room and that I'm sweating, it's because I am. Good afternoon, everybody. This is the Southside Beat, episode 7. Today is Wednesday, September 6, 2023. My name is Corey Crisan. Joining me, as always, Chris Halicke. I am live inside of the UPMC Rooney Sports Complex at the indoor practice facility, a very poorly lit UPMC Rooney Sports Complex indoor practice facility. But that's the price we pay for the live show. The show goes on at 3 p.m. Eastern, Chris.
It does. It does. I mean, this is honestly one of the main reasons why we call this the Southside Beat is, listen, like you were there, the locker room closed, 15 minutes ago?
10 minutes ago. 10 minutes ago.
I mean, so like, this is one of the great things that we can do about, especially with modern technology, is that we can do stuff like this. We can, you're still there. We can set things up and bada bing, bada boom.
Yeah.
Look, Monongahela, Mike
and Swan are already getting me for the background. Yes, it's the wall padding. I mean, this is, athletes run into this pad. So this is Steeler gold. This is what you want.
It's better than the Blue Jays, apparently.
I like my canvas paintings. This is cool to be in here to be doing this.
Appreciate
I'm facing the wall because number one, the lighting is better than if I went the other way around and showed you the background and like the practice field and everything. And also, there's a giant pit logo on that scoreboard up there that I don't know if I can show on a live stream on camera, so I'm not going to do it. But I am inside the practice facility. Practice just ended about 45 minutes ago. We got out of the locker room about 10 minutes ago.
We are doing good, Vaticris. We are doing great.
Today on DK Pittsburgh Sports.com and Vaticris, I'm doing great. It's just I'm a little sweaty. We're going to deal with it. If the sound quality's off, if the camera quality's off, that's because I'm inside of a giant warehouse, essentially. Just left the locker room about 10 minutes ago. And coming up to DKPittsburghSports.com later, I'll have more about the inside linebackers room. And I think it's a really nice perspective. Mike Tomlin kind of led us into it yesterday, so we'll get more to that later. But to start the show, Chris, I want to go into the 49ers offense. And this is going to bridge into kind of what I'm writing about today. But the 49ers have a lot of different ways that they can beat football teams from an offensive standpoint. Christian McCaffrey is obviously one of the best running backs in the NFL when he's actually healthy. And then George Kittle, former All-Pro tight end, has been really great for a long time. Deebo Samuel, one of the most versatile players in the NFL. Brandon Ayuk is no slouch at wide receiver. Kyle Juszczyk, probably the best fullback in the league. They have so many different weapons. I mentioned this yesterday, Chris. To me, 2 through 53, this is the best roster in the NFL, minus the quarterback. Yeah. So I want to get the pulse of, yourself, those that are listening, and I'll give my feed on who do you think is the most dangerous weapon on the 49ers offense, or that poses the biggest threat to the Steelers?
All of them, because we're talking about the possibility of, George Kittle not playing, because, the groin injury, and we still have yet to see the injury report, coming out of San Francisco. But even if George Kittle doesn't play, that's a big thing. Fantasy owners are going to be like, oh man, and they still, like you just listed everybody. They still have Christian McCaffrey. They still have Deebo Samuel. They still have Brandon Ayuk. They still have, I saw, we debated it yesterday, but and at minimum adequate offensive line to give Brock Purdy the time that he needs to, distribute the ball. It's still a dangerous offense, even without a guy like George Kittle. And so really, I think it's just the collection of talent that they have. And it's not just talent, it's talent that's actually, got some skins on the wall, in terms of, what they've been able to accomplish in the NFL. I can't think of a better collection of talent really on offense. You can talk about best receiving core, you can talk about best quarterback, obviously Pat Mahomes, the best, connection being either, Mahomes to Kelsey or, Burrow to Chase, stuff like that. But in terms of what they're able to do in both running the ball, throwing the ball, efficiency on third down, moving the ball up and down the field, scoring in the red zone, nobody did it better than San Francisco last year. And I think it is that collection of talent, and along with Kyle Shanahan's genius as well.
Teresa, nobody's going to doubt Nick Bosa on defense, but for the offense on that standpoint, when you look at Deebo Samuel, when you look at Christian McCaffrey, I would say Deebo Samuel as a danger standpoint just because there's so many different things he could do. He can run the football. He can catch it short. He can get screens. He can go deep. There's different levels that Deebo Samuel can really beat you on. When it comes to Christian McCaffrey, and again, a big emphasis of what I'm going to write in longer form later will be on the website. The big thing about Christian McCaffrey is limiting his yards after the catch and limiting Deebo Samuel's yards after the catch. The difference between the two is Deebo's more likely to hurt you from the start going downfield. I want to bring a point up. Swan asks, are you able to watch some practice today, or was it just about interviews? So I want to peel back the curtain a little bit, give a little inside baseball, inside football, if you will, to now we're into regular season mode when it comes to practice. So that means anything that happens on these fields out here has to be confirmed by a player or coach after the fact. So yes, practice was open for myself and the rest of the Steelers beat to watch. DK was here as well, but we can't report exactly what we see. We have to get it confirmed by a player or a coach. So I can't just like I did in training camp, just say so-and-so took reps with the ones and so-and-so took reps with the twos. That information now from this point forward to the end of the season has to be confirmed or denied by a player. And that goes for participation. That goes for just about anything as well. And the injury report is going to drop today, the first of the season. And if that drops during the show, of course, we'll break it down live. But we can't just say so-and-so missed practice today. So, those are the things that we kind of have to follow from this point going forward.
Randy asked a really cool question, a little off topic, but hey, I love talking it, so I'm going to talk about it.
Let's get off topic. I'm down.
Yeah, Chris, you mentioned fantasy. I love fantasy football. Are you guys able to play fantasy football, or would it interfere too much with your job? Listen, I know that both Corey and I have our own fantasy leagues. We're not in one together, but we both have our own fantasy leagues. I'm in only 2 this year. I do better.
I scaled back.
Yeah, I do better whenever I'm able to really because the leagues that I end up concentrating on the most are the ones that I do the best on. And the ones that I just kind of like, let me see how I do in this 14-team non-PPR, and like, why would I do that to myself?
Yeah.
And so, but no, I love playing. It doesn't interfere with the job. We can, it's just like, it's honestly pretty similar to, when you're a Steelers fan, you have to be able to, get rid of your bias in order to draft a really good fantasy team. It's the same thing as a journalist. You have to be able to look at things from an unbiased point of view and be like, what's going to get me the best fantasy team, regardless of what team they're on or anything like that. Like, I think the only thing I really reached for on both of my teams was the Steelers defense, but really there are only two defenses that I'm really willing to go an extra round or two to take. And that's 49ers and Steelers, because to me, they're the only 2 fantasy defenses that I'm like, they are going to produce pretty much every single week.
Oh, Buffalo. I took Buffalo.
Yeah. I mean, no, Buffalo would have been great, but they're I had San Francisco and Pittsburgh kind of in that, and both of them were reactive. One person took the 49ers defense, both times. And I was like, I'm taking Steelers defense right now. I want one of those 2 defenses.
You and took the bait.
No, but I have a certain round I won't go past. Sure. I won't go past a certain round to take a defense.
Sure.
I actually used to have a rule about quarterbacks too, but I've kind of thrown that out this year too.
I also partake in fantasy football.
Ooh, Dylan.
Outside fantasy league would be something.
Might need some. I mean, shoot, man. You want to draft tonight?
I'm not free. Not available. I can't do it. I'll be on auto pick. I'll have the worst team in the league. I am also in 2 leagues. I am in one with, I would call it the home league. So my best friends and I, we all do it. We've done it every year since, God knows when. And then I was asked to join a league a couple of years ago that's a little bit different, a little more money involved, higher scoring, different scoring system, full PPR or bust. If you're playing standard, stop. Get with the times.
PPR.
Get with the
PPR's
times.
the way to go.
I know a friend, and Evan, if you're listening, I know that you are. I have a really good friend of mine that is in a league where you start 11 offense, 11 defense, and flexes, and it looks like it's misery. So there is too much of a good thing. Cody asked, great question. For a rookie like Broderick Jones, how much does it hurt developmentally to stop getting reps once the regular season starts? So let's talk about reps in a general sense, right? Because Dan Moore Jr. is going to be the starting left tackle, and Broderick Jones is going to be the backup left tackle, despite being drafted, of course, 14th overall, traded up for, etc. And keep in mind this, too. Broderick Jones is not sitting on the sideline every day during practice. He's out getting reps. The twos get a pretty fair amount of reps. I can't really say it's as many as the ones, at least when you look at training camp and the public practices.
Mhm.
But Broderick was working in with the ones up in Latrobe as well. So he's gotten his fair share of reps already. When you look at Broderick, and of course, game action is unlike any other kind of teacher, right?
Yeah.
You can't substitute experience for anything else. But what you can do is value, and Mike Tomlin said it on Tuesday, Cam Hayward had to sit and learn. There's some times where these players that are so talented just can't see the field right away. But I think, and look, Swan brings it up, Cam didn't start right away. Mike Tomlin even said as much. And Mike Tomlin reinforced on Tuesday that he was impressed with the way Broderick Jones has come along. And this whole competition about left tackle hasn't been about Broderick hasn't done well. It has nothing to do with that. And Broderick, in fact, has done well. This is more about Dan Moore Jr. and the strides that he's taken entering year 3 and the strides that he's taken after playing, as Mike Tomlin said, thousands of snaps.
Yeah, I know it's a great problem to have. I mentioned it yesterday, and I'll say it again. Having too many good players at one position is a great problem to have. It's something that the Steelers haven't had a lot of in the last 2-3 seasons, I'd say, maybe even more. But especially on the offensive line. And right now, worst case scenario is obviously one of those guys goes down with an injury, and then you're down to like 2 starter quality guys. But as of right now, you have options. If Chuk starts to slip and he's just not getting it done at right tackle, who's to say that Mike Tomlin won't shift Dan Moore over to right tackle and put Broderick Jones in at left tackle?
Sure.
And then if somebody happens to go down with an injury, you have the quality depth there. It's just it's a great problem to have. It's something that I don't think fans are really used to seeing, especially based off of last year, which last year they went all 17 games with the same starting 5. That'll almost never happen again. But this question to me is a really, really good way to segue into what Kenny was talking about today.
Yep.
And that's really turning the page from an awesome preseason in which we saw guys like Broderick Jones getting all kinds of reps, getting that work in, Joey Porter Jr. getting all that work in. And then obviously everything else that they accomplished, the work that was done at St. Vincent College, the work that was done in 3 stadiums.
Yeah.
And now it's time to put up or shut up, and it's like all that work means nothing if they can't build off of what they built in the last, 6 weeks.
And a follow-up from Dylan here. Do you think it's better for him to sit and learn, or is being thrown into the fire against some elite talent better, sink or swim? By the way, if he's getting thrown into the fire week 1, it's against Nick Bosa. So that is like as into the fire
he's
as you
there.
can potentially get.
If Nick Bosa's there. I know Mike Tomlin's going to prepare for as if he's going to be there, but as of right now, it's not looking good.
No.
Not looking good.
Reports are saying, these coming nationally, these coming out of San Francisco and the Bay Area, that, this could be a midnight hour situation, just like the TJ Watt was when he signed his contract extension. Now, the difference between Watt and Bosa is Watt was a hold in, Bosa's a hold out. Watt was in the building practicing. Nick Bosa did not show up to the Niners facility today, according to reports. So we'll see what happens with Nick Bosa. This could be a thing that literally gets done Friday. Really
quick, this is not Bosa related or technically even Steelers related, but kind of Steelers related because it's in the division. Joe Burrow said today, "I am ready to go."
Okay.
So there's that. So anybody who was kind of hoping that maybe the Bengals will start off a little slow or anything like that at the beginning of the season, if Joe Burrow's ready to go and that offense is flying right away, maybe not.
Barber brings up having the quarterback on a rookie contract and how that helps things. That is true, except for the 49ers. There's an exception to every rule. The 49ers have put a lot of money into a lot of people over recent years, and that's why they're so good right now. That's why they're so well constructed, because they have paid the Trent Williamses and the Christian McCaffreys and the Deebo Samuels and, all of these other players that make up this great team that they have. There's not much more room. And there's a lot of contracts that were loaded in such a way that the books are starting to really hit them this year. So it's going to be a little more difficult than it might sound to get Nick Bosa under contract. I think and this is my theory. My theory is that he's looking for more guarantees, which in this day and age, who wouldn't?
Yeah. I mean, no, it's that. I mean, that's just the nature of the NFL. Like, contracts are seldom fully guaranteed. And when you see a guy such as TJ Watt get the contract that he got, and then Bosa follows up and then he wins Defensive Player of the Year, and, it's just going to continue. It's like, Minka becomes the highest paid safety, and what that lasted for 15 minutes, I mean, it didn't last long. There's going to be a guy that comes and it's going to get that next big contract and then become the next highest paid guy. And Bosa's the next in line. He's going to get it, whether it's from the 49ers or whether it's from another team after the season. Just one way or the other, it's going to happen. And, the 49ers, you could maybe question, some of the signings that they made, not that they don't have a great roster. They do, but when you have, maybe one of the, I don't know if this is much of a stretch here, but one of the 5 greatest defensive players in the game right now on your team.
Sure.
And you can't give him a contract because, that makes you kind of look at, the rest of your contracts and be like, okay, well, is keeping some of these other guys worth possibly losing a guy like Bosa? And to me, it's not. That's why I think the Steelers made the right call in giving TJ that kind of a contract, because he's a game wrecker. Nick Bosa is a game wrecker.
We both did it. Fine.
Yeah, that happens.
But this is why it's so important to have a front office that is salary cap savvy. This is why it's important for the guys like Omar Khan to be able to move money around, to be able to allocate the funds where they need to be, so to speak, and to be able to kind of shed the dead weight, so to speak, where it's needed and where it's necessary in order to fulfill some of those holes. So, look at the 49ers again. They loaded up on so many of these different contracts. And Nick Bosa, he's making $17 million this year. Good contract, reigning Defensive Player of the Year, but that's not reigning Defensive Player of the Year money.
No,
Nick Bosa, and I don't blame him, wants Defensive Player of the Year money. And it's a matter of whether the 49ers want to pay it right now, can pay it right now, and are willing to pay it right now. Those 3 boxes have to be checked from a 49er standpoint to go out and re-sign a guy that is as explosive. And like you said, a top 5 probably defender in the NFL right now in a Nick Bosa.
Monongahela Mike says it perfectly, because there's some people in the comments saying that maybe Bosa can go to the Steelers. We don't have the money. Listen, no. I think the Steelers, as awesome as it would be to think about the possibility of having the 2 best edge rushers in the game on the same team, in terms of allocation, how you allocate funds in your salary cap, that's just not the way to go. You're eventually going to have to pay Kenny Pickett if he's the guy.
Sure.
Eventually. It's just going to happen. You don't have to worry about it this year or next year. After next year, if he's the guy, you might have to start thinking about it. Like, okay, we might need to give him the extension now before he becomes way too expensive. Yeah, no.
No. We're going to cross that bridge when we get to it. How about that?
That's another version of fantasy. That's another version of fantasy football, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't your Madden 23 fantasy draft. You can't pick Nick Bosa and TJ Watt back to back. Yeah, turn the cap off. All trades go through and all of that. You can't just have that in a reality situation, especially in a salary cap league. I found it funny that like in baseball, the Angels let go of 3 pitchers for a salary dump. And my response to that was, a salary dump in a non-salary cap league. What are they doing? I could do a whole show in the Los Angeles Angels. I know it's a football show, but I could do a whole show in the Los Angeles Angels and how big of a disgrace they are for having 2 generational talents and ruining them both. But I digress.
Hey, Pete, I mean, this is something that Steelers fans have echoed, but Pete says, in Con we trust. And listen, especially now that we're talking about how the 49ers have their contracts, if you go through and you look at it, I just remember, as I'm covering the offseason, as I'm covering each individual signing, because I was on the beat during the beginning of free agency, and I'm looking at this contract come through. I'm looking at Ogunjobi's contract and Seumalo's contract, and you hear these numbers, whatever they signed for, and you're like, oh man, how are we going to afford all this? Well, when you look at the way the Steelers break down contracts year by year, and I can't get too intensive with it right now because this isn't the platform to do it.
Mm-hmm.
When you break, and I actually, well, but the thing is, I did actually break down a lot of them on DKPittsburghSports.com back
Mm-hmm.
then. It's genius work because they do it in a way where, yes, like some of them are backloaded, but then a couple of them are kind of front loaded, and then it's also how the bonus is split, how the rest of the guarantees are allocated throughout the years of the contract. None of those contracts look like, man, that's going to be a burden in 2 years.
Right.
Like, how are we going to maneuver without that? They were able to do everything that they were able to do without restructuring TJ's contract. That is genius work. Like,
sure.
you knew the restructure was going to be coming with Minka. That was expected. TJ, I was kind of like, they might have to restructure TJ in order to get everything done that they want to get done. And they got more done than I thought they were going to get done and didn't have to restructure TJ.
Mm-hmm.
It's just genius. It's genius work.
I'm going to read this comment from Tommaso Ciampa because, number one, it reminds me of Tommaso Ciampa, one of my favorite WWE wrestlers. Number two, because he makes a good point here. Having multi-talented players at the same position creates more cap space as younger players can fill in the void, and that the Steelers balanced that out really well. I'm completely with you on that. And that leads me into what Pete says about when you look at setting the market, when it comes to paying a guy like TJ, when you can get ahead and set the market for a position, a caliber of player, a tier of player, if you will, that forces the other team's hands. That's going to force Nick Bosa to say, well, TJ got paid this much. I should get paid this much. And given CBA rules, given just the state and the flow of the NFL, that tends to be more than what TJ Watt gets paid. So it is a really good thing that the Steelers were ahead of the curve, so to speak, when it comes to paying TJ Watt. They got somewhat ahead of paying Alex Highsmith. I know he was kind of behind a batch of a lot of different pass rushers that got paid. But Alex Highsmith, I think, got really good market value. And the Steelers got a relatively reasonable price tag on him.
Yeah, I mean, it's great. Aquatic Life. Hey, I mean, this show, we're in the infant stages of this show. He says, have you thought about an hour, perhaps 45 minutes as opposed to 30 minutes? Listen, we are, like I said, we're in the infant stages of this show. We are still in the process of like getting a feel for how this whole thing is going to work. And that's the beautiful thing about doing a live podcast is that, listen, we can drive this however we need to drive it. We can take this in whatever direction we want to take it. We can make it more fun. We can make it more analytical. We can make it one thing one day, another thing another day. And you guys help drive the conversation too. I mean, some days we might go 25 minutes. Some days we may go over the 30 minutes. And some days, and eventually if we just don't need to stop talking, then we don't stop talking. If you guys just keep coming on, then we're going to keep talking.
Now, keeping it to 30 is a relatively good, not just for Chris and myself, but I think it's a good just length overall for a listen. It's a commute home on a playback. It's not going to take you, and we're not going to bore you to death as well. We're not just going to make up stuff to make up stuff. We're not just going to sit here and babble about, Suits or whatever TV show you're watching, just for the sake of filling up time. That's the other beautiful thing about this. 30 minutes, we feel comfortable as a in and out time. It's a hard 3 to hard 3:30. Also, Chris has family obligations. I have obligations as well. So it works right now. Right now it works. Right now it's a nice, I think, package way to, again, I'm inside of the building. I am on the south side. I can't be any closer to being next to the team unless I was in the parking lot, which I'm not allowed to be in. So this is as close quarters as it gets for being on the south side beat, so to speak. So we're doing, I think, our best to not provide the show that you deserve as far as quality content, as far as insider content, as far as here's what I'm seeing, here's what Chris is seeing, but it's also your show too. We said this from the very beginning. Oh, yeah. Anytime you bring a topic to the forefront, you type a question in the YouTube chat, type a question in the comment sections, even on DKPittsburghSports.com when you see this on a playback, we're going to go ahead and look at it, and we're going to take suggestions, and we're going to fire in questions live. Yep. This is a really cool thing about it. Stephanie mentions the so-called experts are taking the 49ers. Yawn, of course they are. I believe the Vegas line for entertainment purposes only, if you're in a
Mhm.
state that doesn't support this, is 2, which is pretty close to me. I think the
Let me look.
49ers
I think
are
last I
favored
looked it
by
was
2.
2.5, but I'll look. I'll double check right now. It is 2. So it changed because it was 2.5 last I looked. So
2.5 according to Mike as well. Teresa, we can't go a full hour. If we run over, we'll get the big rage.
Oh
Ramon
yeah,
and DK.
we can't go over an hour because
No, never.
because Ramon and DK at the top of the hour, and let's face it, that's the main event. That's the main event.
Absolutely. Stella, we're doing our best. Football season tends to get busier. We're doing our best with that. It's a work-life balance that we love doing. We do this job because we love it,
Yeah.
but at the end of the day, of course, we do our best to balance all of that and appreciate it.
Yeah.
AJ, I hope we get a recurring name short segment. Be on the lookout for ideas. How's it smell there, Corey? They weren't in here practicing today. Nobody was. Pitt was outside. The Steelers were outside. So I can't say it smells like athlete in here. It's just hot. It's just like heat, If you could smell heat, that's what it smells like.
Okay. I have to say something here. I have to. Okay. Yes. I am coming. I'm sitting in my house in the Dallas area, and like, I don't want to hear about heat. I really don't. I mean, it is 102 degrees outside right now.
Yeah.
And so I'm so over. But I did look at the weather, and apparently there's going to be a front coming in on Monday, and it's going to bring in days of less days with a high of less than 90, which I have not seen since I think right after like end of May, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been a while.
90
72 here. Monongahela, Mike. Come on, man.
90 degrees in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania on September 6th should not happen.
Oh, no, it should not happen. Yeah,
That's my blanket statement. That's my blanket statement on the weather.
Yep.
Tommaso, we appreciate you. We appreciate your feedback as well. We're obviously new-ish venture on this still, and we're having fun. Randy chimes in about the Pittsburgh Pirates, the baseball team, the flat game last night. Andre Jackson gets through the lineup once and then gets blown up. That's what happens. I mean, sometimes you just don't have it. William, appreciate you. We feel like we are a main event show as well, but obviously we know that DK and Ramon have something really massive built up, and we appreciate the fact that we appreciate the fact that we get to kind of work hand in hand on some days where we lead right into it. You get to take a little 30-minute break, grab a pop, grab a snack, do what you need to before DK and Moan at 4. And this is football season. There's going to be days where we're really locked in. We're really hitting it head on. We've been kind of stalling in a way to see if an injury report comes out as well today, and it hasn't yet. So once that's coming out, we will, of course, have it in the feed on DKPittsburghSports.com.
Yeah, of course.
Chris, a final thought before we log out of here on a Wednesday afternoon.
I really like. Obviously, I was kind of looking forward to what Kenny was going to say today, and I just really like what he said when he's talking about, like, listen, because it's one thing to hear. And by the way, shame on us for not mentioning it yesterday about Mike Tomlin dropping an "we do not care" or "I do not care" about that. Like, shame on us for not mentioning that. That was gold. That might be the best Tomlinism out there. Like, we could talk about the standard as the standard and painting with a broad brush, or painting the barn red and everything like that. But anytime he drops an "I do not care," "we do not care," it's worth mentioning. But when we talk about the outside noise, and we talk about what the preseason is going to do for the expectations for this team, and Kenny just talking about, like, listen, that's behind us now. Like, this work ahead of us, and watching him continue to mature, even whenever it comes to the way he talks to the media, is just such a really, really great thing to see.
Yep.
And sometimes he may not have the strongest arm. He may not be the best guy in terms of breaking down coverages, but man, he is a really mature kid, and he has a lot of really good intangibles. And if he can put enough together in terms of football smarts along with physical ability, this really could be the next franchise quarterback. I mean, the intangibles are there, and hearing him talk today, saying things like, listen, this is in the past, let's continue to move forward.
Yep.
Just really good stuff from him today. Just really impressed.
Very mature guy. That's why he was elected a team captain. They see the maturity level in him. They see all of those qualities in him just in year 2 right now. Gene asked, do the Browns upset the Bengals? It's possible. And Mark brings up a point. The Browns have the Bengals number for some reason. So we'll see on that. My final quick thought of the day, enjoy the ride. I know football season can be, you get up on game day, you're stressed out to an extent, you're excited to an extent. But now that we're here, now that the games are happening, now that the day by day is coming into fruition, just take it in stride. Have fun with it. For whatever the Steelers' record is this season, this is a team to be excited about. This is a team to get behind. This is a team to really feel good about, not just this year, but for years to come. So take this season in stride. Have fun with it. Appreciate what's going on over here. And I think you're going to have the best experience. Remember, watching sports is an experience, and it's only as good as you make it. So have fun with this season. We had fun on today's show. I will likely be in the same setting tomorrow. 3 o'clock Eastern. Remember, every Monday through Friday, the Southside Beat live on DK Pittsburgh Sports on YouTube. Please like, please share, please subscribe. We greatly appreciate that. It goes a long way. And remember, you can listen to this on playback on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and Spotify. DK and Ramon Foster show coming up in about 30 minutes right here. He's Chris. I'm Corey. We'll see you later.